At Land Bank, we are committed to serving South African commercial and emerging agriculture by bringing specially designed financial services within the reach of farmers across the nation. Here is one of our success stories. Chiridzi Machidzura is a 35-year-old multi-award-winning dairy farmer based in Stutterheim, Eastern Cape. Chiridzi and his wife Adivaro Machidzura operate across two farms, namely a newly acquired farm in Stutterheim and a dairy farm in Alexandria, where they have a 20% shareholding ownership. Chiridzi is a skilled and innovative farmer who has steadily built his reputation as one of South Africa's leading dairy farmers. In 2023, Chiridzi and the Machidzura Family Trust received critical financial support from Land Bank through their blended finance scheme. The blended finance scheme, established in partnership with the Department of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development, is a part grant and part loan funding program set up to commercialize developing farmers and promote majority black-owned enterprises. Through the Land Bank funding and support, Chiridzi was successful in purchasing the 357-hectare farm in Stutterheim. This has been a crucial step in realizing his long-term vision of owning and fully developing his own farm. Initially, his focus was on heifer rearing and winter silage production to support the adjacent dairy farm. However, he is now expanding his vision to develop his farm into a fully operational dairy and irrigation infrastructure. He secured water rights for irrigation and he obtained further funding to purchase the necessary irrigation systems. Despite his success, Chiridzi faces challenges typical of growing farms. The phased development of the farm, beginning with irrigation, followed by dairy infrastructure, and finally cattle acquisition, requires careful planning and significant investment. However, Chiridzi's experience, having managed herds of over 1,000 dairy cows and being recognized with multiple awards, positions him well to navigate these challenges. In addition to his on-farm activities, Chiridzi is involved in several influential agricultural bodies where he continues to learn from the best in the industry. Chiridzi Machidzura is not only a successful farmer, but a role model for others who aspire to build a legacy in agriculture. His dedication to sustainable and profitable farming, combined with his resilience in overcoming challenges, makes him a shining example of what's possible with the right support and a clear vision for growth. Chiridzi's story emphasizes Land Bank's commitment to empowering farmers and supporting their growth, thereby contributing to the transformation of the South African agricultural sector. Land Bank, we stand by you. At Land Bank, we are committed to serving South African commercial and emerging agriculture by bringing specially designed financial services within the reach of farmers across the nation. Here is one of our success stories. Vumile Mzinzi, a 37-year-old farmer from the Eastern Cape, is the driving force behind Matuwana Agencies Pty Limited, a family-run farming business located in the Maclear district, 60 kilometers north of Mthatha. Vumile, a 55% shareholder, manages the operation alongside his father, Tumegile Mzinzi, a seasoned farmer with over 20 years of experience. Together, they lead a team of 9 permanent workers and employ up to 60 seasonal workers during peak seasons in their diversified farming operation that includes maize, potatoes, dry beans, and livestock farming across both privately owned and leased properties. As a registered pharmacist with a BSc degree, Vumile's journey into farming is unique. After being involved part-time since 2013, he joined the family farming business full-time in 2020. His commitment to the farm was recognized when he was named the Toyota Emerging Farmer of the Year in 2021. In 2023, the Mzinzi family secured financing from Land Bank's Blended Finance Scheme. The Blended Finance Scheme, established in partnership with the Department of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development, is a part grant and part loan funding program set up in order to commercialize developing farmers and promote majority black-owned enterprises. Vumile's goals are to compete on equal footing with the large commercial farms in the surrounding areas. The land bank funding has allowed the Mzinzis to acquire top-tier agricultural machinery, which has increased their planting efficiency and enabled them to optimize both production and harvesting times. The financial support has allowed them to lease more land, thereby boosting their capacity and competitive edge. Despite their progress, the Mzinzis face several challenges, with the most pressing being weather-related issues and the narrow window for planting. Vumile works hard to ensure that planting proceeds as planned and that re-advanced production funding is secured in time to avoid cash flow disruptions. Vumile Mzinzi is an inspiration to other young farmers in South Africa. His ability to balance modern farming techniques with traditional values, along with his determination to scale his family's farming business, makes him a role model in the agricultural community. With the continued support of Land Bank and a clear vision for the future, Vumile is well on his way to cement a lasting impact within the farming industry. Land Bank stands proud in empowering farmers like Matuana agencies to ensure that the delivery of land, capacity, skills and financial resources take place for the benefit of the emerging farming sector. Land Bank, we stand by you. At Land Bank, we are committed to serving South African commercial and emerging agriculture by bringing specially designed financial services within the reach of farmers across the nation. Here is one of our success stories. Chiridzima Chidzura is a 35-year-old multi-award winning dairy farmer based in Stutterheim, Eastern Cape. Chiridzi and his wife Adivaro Machidzura operate across 2 farms, namely a newly acquired farm in Stutterheim and a dairy farm in Alexandria, where they have a 20% shareholding ownership. Chiridzi is a skilled and innovative farmer who has steadily built his reputation as one of South Africa's leading dairy farmers. In 2023, Chiridzi and the Machidzura Family Trust received critical financial support from Land Bank through their blended finance scheme. The blended finance scheme, established in partnership with the Department of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development, is a part grant and part loan funding program set up to commercialize developing farmers and promote majority black-owned enterprises. Through the Land Bank funding and support, Chiridzi was successful in purchasing the 357-hectare farm in Stutterheim. This has been a crucial step in realizing his long-term vision of owning and fully developing his own farm. Initially, his focus was on heifer rearing and winter silage production to support the adjacent dairy farm. However, he is now expanding his vision to develop his farm into a fully operational dairy and irrigation infrastructure. He secured water rights for irrigation and he obtained further funding to purchase the necessary irrigation systems. Despite his success, Chiridzi faces challenges typical of growing farms. The phased development of the farm, beginning with irrigation, followed by dairy infrastructure, and finally cattle acquisition, requires careful planning and significant investment. However, Chiridzi's experience, having managed herds of over 1,000 dairy cows and being recognized with multiple awards, positions him well to navigate these challenges. In addition to his on-farm activities, Chiridzi is involved in several influential agricultural bodies where he continues to learn from the best in the industry. Chiridzi Machidzura is not only a successful farmer, but a role model for others who aspire to build a legacy in agriculture. His dedication to sustainable and profitable farming, combined with his resilience in overcoming challenges, makes him a shining example of what's possible with the right support and a clear vision for growth. Chiridzi's story emphasizes Land Bank's commitment to empowering farmers and supporting their growth, thereby contributing to the transformation of the South African agricultural sector. Land Bank, we stand by you. At Land Bank, we are committed to serving South African commercial and emerging agriculture by bringing specially designed financial services within the reach of farmers across the nation. Here is one of our success stories. Vumile Mzinzi, a 37-year-old farmer from the Eastern Cape, is the driving force behind Matuwana Agencies Pty Limited, a family-run farming business located in the Maclear district, 60 kilometers north of Mthatha. Vumile, a 55% shareholder, manages the operation alongside his father, Tumegile Mzinzi, a seasoned farmer with over 20 years of experience. Together, they lead a team of 9 permanent workers and employ up to 60 seasonal workers during peak seasons in their diversified farming operation that includes maize, potatoes, dry beans, and livestock farming across both privately owned and leased properties. As a registered pharmacist with a BSc degree, Vumile's journey into farming is unique. After being involved part-time since 2013, he joined the family farming business full-time in 2020. His commitment to the farm was recognized when he was named the Toyota Emerging Farmer of the Year in 2021. In 2023, the Mzinzi family secured financing from Land Bank's Blended Finance Scheme. The Blended Finance Scheme, established in partnership with the Department of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development, is a part grant and part loan funding program set up in order to commercialize developing farmers and promote majority black-owned enterprises. Vumile's goals are to compete on equal footing with the large commercial farms in the surrounding areas. The Land Bank funding has allowed the Mzinzis to acquire top-tier agricultural machinery, which has increased their planting efficiency and enabled them to optimize both production and harvesting times. The financial support has allowed them to lease more land, thereby boosting their capacity and competitive edge. Despite their progress, the Mzinzis face several challenges, with the most pressing being weather-related issues and the narrow window for planting. Vumile works hard to ensure that planting proceeds as planned and that re-advanced production funding is secured in time to avoid cash flow disruptions. Vumile Mzinzi is an inspiration to other young farmers in South Africa. His ability to balance modern farming techniques with traditional values, along with his determination to scale his family's farming business, makes him a role model in the agricultural community. With the continued support of Land Bank and a clear vision for the future, Vumile is well on his way to cement a lasting impact within the farming industry. Land Bank stands proud in empowering farmers like Matuana agencies to ensure that the delivery of land, capacity, skills and financial resources take place for the benefit of the emerging farming sector. Land Bank, we stand by you.
Right, good afternoon and welcome to day 2 of the Land Bank Lunchtime Conversations with Food for Mzansi. Of course, my name is Duncan Masiwa, Assistant Editor at the agricultural publication Food for Mzansi. And also a warm welcome to our online guests on Facebook and YouTube. Yesterday we had close to 2,700 viewers online on different platforms. So I know it's a conversation that you definitely want to be a part of. You're more than welcome to pose your questions in the chat box throughout the day, and we'll definitely get to that. Of course, yesterday we talked the Blended Finance and Agro-Energy Fund, which is specifically designed for small to medium-scale farmers. And we heard a bit about some of the success stories, and we had them on stage. We also talked honestly about the challenges that exist with both the blended finance as well as the agro-energy fund, but as well as the opportunities that exist. And it was definitely an engaging conversation that we had yesterday, and we encourage that you continue to engage as we take the conversation a bit further today. So today we are looking at how Land Bank is strategically repositioning itself to deliver on its development finance model. And of course, we've got some of the bigwigs at Land Bank with us here today, and they'll be joining me on stage very shortly. I encourage you, this is an open platform, get your questions ready. It's a one-of-a-kind opportunity where you don't often get to speak to the leaders of Land Bank in this kind of setup and in this kind of format. So I encourage you to participate and engage. Please help me welcome on stage our first panelist. To join me is the CEO of Land Bank, Ntate Themba Rikotso. Your hands and mine for him. Joining him on stage is the Managing Director for the Land Bank Insurance Company, Ntate Pascal Shipugu. Please put your hands together for him. Also joining us for this conversation is Ntate Lita Kuta, who is the Partnership Development and Ecosystem Coordination at Land Bank. Your hands and mine for Ntate Lita. Then we've also got the Senior Advisor to the Free State Premier here with us, Dr. Takisa Masiteng. Please help me welcome him on stage. We went to go collect him on this side. So Nampa Park is very big and it's easy to get lost, and so we had to go fetch Ntate. Thank you so much for being part of the conversation today. I think I want to maybe set the scene, Mr. Themba. You know, Land Bank has made a lot of strides since its big turnaround. I'd like to hear from you, what are the achievements that you are most proud of so far? What would some of those be?
Yeah, thank you very much, Duncan, and a very good afternoon to everybody. Yeah, most certainly, we are on the right track, and there are certainly starting to be certain achievements that we're starting to be proud of as the leadership of the organization. And I'll mention some of them. So when you look at the implementation of blended finance, I must say that the implementation of blended finance is one of those proud moments for me. If you look at the targets that we had set with the department, we were intending to implement blended finance and disburse grants to the value of about 325 million per annum. If you look at what we were able to achieve so far, we have far exceeded that. As at end of April, we've been able to approve over 3 billion worth of grants. I mean, over 3 billion worth of blended finance in total. Of course, you can say about half of that is about grants. We have disbursed over 2/3 of that. So over 2 billion of grants or blended finance have been disbursed. So when you look at the progress to date on the blended finance, most certainly it's one of the proud moments. Another one for me, it's the farming assets that we have financed under blended finance. I have visited quite a number of those. In fact, I can say that the 2 farmers that were here yesterday, I have visited the farms. The farms are looking extremely beautiful. They are indeed commercial farmers. When you look at the knowledge of those farmers and the farming practices that they have adopted, most certainly very, very proud moment. You can see that we are actually on the right track. Another one, I can say, the commitment of Land Bank employees to the mandate of the bank. The bank has been in default, which we cured sometimes last year. Many of our employees remain committed to the bank. They continue to work extremely hard. When you look at the quality of the pipeline, the number of applications that we are processing, and of course the quality of these farming assets that I have mentioned, most certainly those are my proud moments. And of course, we got out of default mid last year. Getting the bank out of default is most certainly another very proud moment. It has been very difficult, and the bank had challenges that we had to sort out. And lastly, Duncan, as another proud moment, when I look at the value and amount of disaster relief assistances that we are giving to farmers that are experiencing difficulties, it's quite a lot. If I look at the past 24 months, we put together about 1.8 billion worth of forbearance packages to farmers that have been hit by various disasters in their farming practices. Farmers that experience fires, floods, and many other climate change-related disasters. So the assistance that we package for them, it's really another proud moment. It shows that the bank indeed is there to stand by farmers, and we don't just walk away. Of course, there's still much more work to be done, but we are in the right track.
Most definitely, if I hear some of those figures, it definitely sounds that you are on the right track. For those of you who are listening online, the background noise is an orchard farm fan, rather, that is blowing right next to us, and so that's probably going to happen throughout the conversation. It's beautiful to hear some of these numbers. You know, Nandipa Gakla was yesterday on the stage as well. She's of course been very instrumental from the beginning, from the get-go in the blended finance program. It must feel good to see so many success stories coming out of the blended finance program. Briefly, what does that say, do you think, about the commitment of Land Bank towards transforming the agricultural sector when it comes to access to financing?
Yeah, indeed, it's very proud moments for us when we see many of the success stories, and there are so many of them. In fact, in the past 5 months, I have traveled to many provinces to see a lot of those projects, and there are some very good farmers. Their knowledge, what they are doing, the economic impact that we are having. So I think as far as the commitment to our mandate and to the sector, in fact, it tells us that we are actually having the right mandate as the bank to transform the sector, but also to develop the sector. Many of those stories go beyond transformation. You can see it is true agriculture development and have got huge amount of impact in the sector. I remember one particular a project that we financed in the Northern Cape, in an area called Onsiep Kans. That project has created over 60% of the economic activities in that particular community coming out of the project. And you see that in many other projects that we have done. So very clear that when you do agricultural development and you do it right, you will have impact as far as job creation, driving the economic activities, and the induced value coming out of it. It's much more bigger than the direct value, of course, coming out of the farming activities. So the mandate of the bank is right, and we need to continue to be committed to developing the sector, to transforming the sector. And of course, we're working with many partners. We need to continue to work with those partners as well.
Pascal, I know that the Land Bank Insurance Company is equally as committed to making sure that farmers have the proper support when it comes to some of the disasters that Themba talked about. Since the last time we spoke here at NAMPO, maybe take us to how Land Bank Insurance has improved its support to farmers that are facing droughts and other shocks that we see in various parts of the country.
Thank you, Duncan. And I'm glad you asked that question because it's quite a proud moment for us as the Land Bank Insurance, having launched a few products that are meant at supporting the small-scale farmer and the non-commercial segment. One is the pasture drought, which assists cattle and livestock owners in the event of deficits in moisture to support grazing. And that product we launched in December, and we saw some real good interest in taking up the cover. We're also introducing now in the coming month the area yield, which is the crop equivalent of the livestock, again to mitigate against the risk of drought. So we're very excited about that. I think the livestock, it's quite a big thing for us, looking at the growth of the livestock market in the market, at least from the numbers that we see. And we think that that is exactly what farmers need, particularly around this period where we are experiencing a rain deficit. As we go forward, we're starting to think about what's next. And our thinking is around mitigating against excessive rain and flood, and watch the space those will be coming through in the coming year.
Future focused. I'm interested, what are some of the innovations in insurance that have worked well so far? What would those be, some of those be, Pascal?
I think a big thing for us has been empowering farmers with knowledge and skills. What we see in the sector is a number of the non-commercial farmers do not quite understand the relevance of insurance, certainly as part of your risk mitigating strategy as a farmer. Over the year, we've trained just over 2,500 farmers on the concept of risk mitigation and insurance. When do you buy insurance? What kind of insurance do you need? How much insurance do you need? And the different options that farmers have as they prepare to go into plant. So that really for us, it's a big thing. I think one other thing has been, we've been worried about the extent to which the sector had not driven transformation, at least throughout the value chain. So we've worked towards creating a value chain that will support the farmer. So we've started and continue to invest in two flagship programs. One is the Black Broker. Insurance is typically quite complex and requires advice. And we're training up brokers closer to where the farmers are so that farmers can easily access advice in the language that they understand. That's on the one hand. And then lastly is our Black Assessor program, which has had a bias towards youth and females. And over the past year, we trained 22 farmers, and I'm glad to say 60% of them were female, so quite exciting. But that really creates such an opportunity for farmers to earn extra income as they go about their daily work as farmers. So we're really excited about that.
I have a bias. I think that's one of my favorite projects or programs at the Land Bank, the one specifically that you're talking about. So it's good to hear some of the successes that's coming out of that. Lita, you've been with Land Bank for a number of years now. What are some of the positive shifts that you've seen so far?
No, thank you. Hi to you, Duncan, and also to everyone. So from a Land Bank, normally it's known for financing. For all the years since it was started, and also for providing financial products. But the shift that has started to happen now is to see ourselves not just as a channel for access to finance for farmers, because the challenges of farmers go beyond finance, and some of these challenges, they experience them before they actually get the financing. So when you look at the partnership, at how we've sort of themed it as an organization, is that we are saying farmers struggle to get market access. So if you can't get market access, then you cannot raise capital. Farmers are struggling with collateral, right? And they struggle with capacity building. They struggle with compliance. So one of the biggest shifts that we started to make was to say, we will set up a partnership team that is actually going to deal with the non-banking issues that affects your ability to be banked as a farmer. So we work with the farmers to actually secure the markets with the retailers, with the food manufacturers, with the export market. And we guide them how that process works. We go further to say we'll provide them with the capacity building to meet compliance to get to those farmers. There are many farmers who don't have global gap, for example. And as a result, they can't actually secure markets. And once you start to do that, then you start increasing the pipeline for Land Bank, because once they secure those markets, now the second stage is that they're actually going to need financing. And then we pick up that there's issues of collateral. One of the initiatives we're busy now is we're finalizing a credit guarantee to make sure that farmers, when they come in and they've got a shortage of security, that there's a credit guarantee that they can actually get, which then gets them over the line, because some of them don't have enough security to actually be able to securitize the transaction. Then thirdly is we also, even though we work for Land Bank, we also help you to apply at Land Bank. Because there are hurdles in terms of, do you have a bankable business plan, right? And we help you to develop that business plan, and then we put it into a system. And one of the key things that then works very well is that we also monitor the application in the process. So we are almost like your facilitator of your process. We work with you, we give you feedback. Then once your deal is approved, then we come back with a post-investment support to provide you that grower program, because we need to support you to make sure that you are able to harvest at the end. Remember, if we help you with markets, you need to actually supply that product, whatever contract. So our job is to help you fulfill the obligations of that contract, and also make sure that you actually get paid by the market access partner. So these are the shifts that are starting to work. Over and above that, we work with Land Bank Insurance to make sure that you are securitized in the process, so that if anything happens, because agriculture is risky, you are covered. If you go into workout and restructure, for example, your transaction is struggling, we are also able to work with our colleagues in workout and restructure and look for markets for a struggling farmer, and also be able to provide pre and post support. So our support really is to make sure that we help you end to end. And also lastly, we don't just help you for one season. So one of the things we do is to want to make sure that farmers have multiple markets. They can do crop rotation, and also they can do multi-cropping. So some of these farmers might be planting maize. We might look for a contract for you to do horticulture, which is something those farmers sometimes didn't think of, but they are not aware of the opportunities. So because we link with many stakeholders, whether it's the retailer, the food manufacturer, it's the commodity builder, we've got the information. So we're able to provide the farmer. So the nice thing is then that it allows the Land Bank to actually increase their funding envelope. into a farmer, not only just to get in, but also to be able to expand and grow as a farmer. So those are the shifts that are starting to come through from the land bank.
I mean, looking from the outside in, Dr. Takiso, it sounds like Land Bank is taking their developmental mandate quite seriously. For here, all the extra steps that Land Bank is taking to make sure that farmers are bankable, their revised strategy, and also the innovations that we are seeing in the insurance side. What role do you see provincial government playing in supporting Land Bank's transformation goals?
No, thank you very much for the opportunity. Yeah, one of the criticisms is always centered around the silo mentality when we approach development. And one of the responsibilities of government departments is to level the playing field and make sure that institutions like the Land Bank, for instance, fulfills its mandate. I think Land Bank did their part, and as correctly indicated, there are some developments that they have made when they started to partner with the departments, more especially the National Department of Agriculture, which cascade to the provincial level. The introduction of the blended funding, for instance, it's one typical example where government realized that if you persuade grants only, you are not going to make it. But if you bring in that element of a loan, which has been seen as the one that brings in the sense of ownership, more especially to the farming community or to the clients at large, I think that has assisted a lot, and it's beginning to yield results. I think in the province, we are not talking of less than 30 farmers that are participating in the blended funding itself. So those are some of the things as provincial departments we are preaching, to say we need to work together. We need to support you as Land Bank to fulfill your mandate. But also at the same time, remember, there is a client out there who also would go straight to the government for assistance, who would also go straight to the private sectors to go to the Land Bank for assistance. But for as long as we operate in a cooperative, in a coordinated manner, we will be able to make the impact that is needed. So that's how government is now beginning to shape up, more especially seeing that you have institutions like Land Bank, when supported, when properly supported, they will be able to assist in bringing the results that we want.
You, of course, the senior advisor to the Free State Premier, as well as the former HOD for agriculture in the province. What are some of the biggest challenges you hear from Free State farmers today, and how can institutions like Land Bank, do you think, help address some of these gaps that exist?
There are quite a number of challenges that our farmers are complaining about. The most common one is the disaster in general, be it too much rain in the form of floods, be it drought if you don't have enough rain, be it the outbreak of the disease. On that side, those are the main problems that we have. But we also have challenges that farmers are raising. We are approaching harvesting time now. And most of the farmers, they don't have their own equipment to do the harvest and so on. So when they get assistance, in most cases, it is late. So that creates a challenge on its own. You also have a challenge where farmers are saying, I do have a tractor, but I don't have production input support. And that is where government and Land Bank must now come together and say, don't duplicate, don't do what I have done. I've already given them the tractor, assist them with the production input support. But the mistake that we are making, we are beginning to say, I am government, you want a tractor, you also want the production input support. then I want to do it alone. That's a silo mentality. So I need to say I can only assist you maximally with only the tractors and so on. But Land Bank will come in with the production input support. Then we are done with this particular farm. But a biggie hiso and a biggie daso, it does not help in most cases. So these are some of the criticisms and the complaints that farmers always raised sharply when they meet with government departments and so on.
And I'm sure we'll be hearing some of those concerns coming from farmers a bit later. And that's why we're having this conversation, to address the gaps that continue to exist. Coming back to you, Themba, how has the progress so far shaped the bank's thinking about balancing transformation with financial sustainability?
I think in terms of balancing transformation and financial sustainability, there's been quite a number of thinking, of course, that are emerging out of what we are doing currently. And one of the realizations is that if you do transformation and do it right, it shouldn't be at the expense of financial sustainability. Transformation and financial sustainability can actually work together if you do it right. And what do we mean by doing it right? You actually have to take a holistic look and actually have an ecosystem or a value chain approach to it. Start with an end in mind and ask yourself, where is the commodity that you're going to finance this farmer going to? Can you assist with market access? What are the different elements of the value chain that the farmer is going to be operating in? And what role can we actually play there to help remove all the frictions that exist across that value chain? If you do that and do it well, when you deal with transformation clients, then there will be financial sustainability. And hence, an area like LITA, where we actually identify the various partners that we need to work with and ensure that all the various types of help that we need to give farmers, we actually do it. So we've got to identify all risks, and insurance is one of them, but also there are other many risks that we need to actually help farmers with. The other thing that is starting to help our thinking with it's we've got to focus on diversification to achieve financial sustainability. And diversification in a number of ways. One, we've set a target for ourselves that by 2030, we've got to have a 50-50 split of our clients. We still focus on large commercial or corporate clients. We are assisting them. We have products that are earmarked for them, but also we need to bring in the new era commercial farmers and diversify our client base. Also, commodity diversification. We're starting to be quite intentional on some of the commodities that we have not had exposure on before, and starting to be intentional on bringing those commodities into the type of assets that we are assisting our farmers with. We're starting to think quite a lot on our products and services and how do we diversify that and ensure that we start to give our clients a lot more. One, to increase the products that they are using from us, but also to ensure financial sustainability as well. The other part is that financial sustainability is actually an outcome of us focusing fully on what we call the sustainable food systems. And one is we start with, is the farmer using the right farming practices to ensure that they look after that important resource, the agricultural land that they use. So the farming practices that the farmer is using. And we also are looking at how do we ensure that the farmers get connected, of course, with the various players that will assist them. So focusing on mentorship, focusing on also helping them with the right access to input. So I think with what we're doing now, we realize that we need to do a lot more to ensure that the transformation in the sector leads to financial sustainability holistically. We have said it many times that if we don't ensure that our farmers themselves are financially sustainable, we will not be financially sustainable ourselves as a bank. So really focusing on unlocking the financial sustainability of farmers so that we can be sustainable ourselves.
You talk about a holistic approach. I think, Ntate, keep the microphone away from the tablet. Perfect. We talk about a holistic approach, Pascal. How has the experience of integrating insurance with finance tools like the blended funding shaped your plans for the future?
I think the big thing is affordability. So typical insurance is deemed to be expensive. And I think the beauty of the blended finance approach has been the embedded allocation to insurance. And that helps farmers who ordinarily would not afford to purchase insurance. But in there is also mitigation for the lender. That in the event that a farmer's life is lost, or a farmer cannot work for some reason, maybe disablement, rare disease, the product will respond, the insurance product will respond, so that the farmer's family is not left devastated by a huge debt. So we think that that's a big thing. But also mitigating against production uncertainty, where as a result of whatever peril, it could be excessive rain, it could be drought, it could be wind, it could be whatever it is that happens and impacts the production, that the insurance product can respond. We're seeing very good take-up on that, where as farmers take out blended finance, then they see opportunity to protect themselves and to protect the enterprise.
Lita, market access, of course, is another big challenge that you'd hear almost every farmer complain about. What role is Landbank playing in helping its farmers get into retail or formal value chains?
Okay. So one of the things, I've had the privilege myself of working for a retailer and a food manufacturer, so I've seen things from the other side. There's many issues around farmers don't know what is being required on the other side. It's information asymmetry. They don't know what are the criteria required, whether their farming practices are correct, whether they are using the right infrastructure, right? So one of the first things we do when we sign with partners is to understand those requirements. That's the first thing. Because then when you talk to farmers, you can start matching their capabilities with the requirements. And then you can already see that there is a gap. And the nice thing is that because we've got pre and post support, we can then start financing those gaps to be closed. In some instances, we work with provincial governments to close those gaps, right? Because it's in the interest, these farmers belong to a province, to a local area. So we're starting to see provinces coming through and working with us to start investing in some of the compliance requirements of the market. Because once you remove non-compliance, you start seeing more retailers, food manufacturers, the uptake literally goes up. But over and above that is also to train the farmer to also behave in a particular manner. Because when you supply a retailer, you know, there's a certain conduct, how you should go about, you know, running your business. Because once they give you a contract, they are reliant on you providing those volumes, which they actually factor into their production. So if you don't produce, it's either you're going to short them in the shelf for a retailer, or a food manufacturer won't have raw material to produce. So part of it is to work with the farmers. That's why the post-investment support becomes super critical, because they need to know that if you don't give that retailer or that food manufacturer those products, you are affecting their profit and loss, their income statement. So that shift then allows the farmer to start knowing that now they are a commercial farmer because they are dealing with a big retailer, which ordinarily they wouldn't be able to do that. We also help them on the commercial to engage with the retailer, because some of the farmers, they struggle to even engage with them, because to talk to a buyer in a food retailer, it takes a specific type of skill. So we coach you and we guide you so that when you go in, it's a soft landing. And in some instances, we also work with aggregators who are already plugged into those markets, meaning you don't have to actually go to a retailer, you'll plug into an aggregator that is already supplying that retailer. And then we make sure that at the end, you are delivering, because that's at the end, they're giving you a contract and there is an exchange that I'm giving a contract to give me small white beans, therefore you've got an obligation to supply. And then once that happens, then we also take session of payment with those retailers so that you are able to pay us. The nice thing then that for next season, it becomes a revolving credit. You can actually come back to Land Bank and then we can renegotiate a new contract with the food manufacturer retailer to increase the volume. In some instances, you might be doing groundnuts, but we might also negotiate for you to do vegetables with another retailer or food manufacturer. So this whole thing is built around making sure we sit with the farmer, we plan your production, we look at your land. We've got a system within Land Bank where you give us your coordinates, your farmer address. We can tell you exactly what you can plant in your farm. That allows us to see the quantum of crops that you can do, and then we can also advise, you can do this product for this retailer, you can do this product for that food manufacturer. Then again, at the end, it's up to the farmer, because we'll provide that market access, we'll provide the financing. The farmers also need to come through, show some level of discipline, make sure they stick to the growing program, make sure they stick to the farming practice agreed, because once you do that, next year you get another contract. And then you start growing like any other commercial farmer. And these techniques have been done already, right, by commercial farmers, so it's nothing new. It's just to make sure that our development farmers actually get inducted into the process, get coached in the process. We will do our role as the Land Bank to make sure that we unlock those markets. We'll make sure that we are funded. We'll make sure that we capacitate you. But you also have got a responsibility as a farmer to make sure that you stick to your farming practice as agreed. And out of that, then colleagues, if you are able to showcase the results, we can start introducing you to other markets. Some of those markets could be local, some of those markets could be international. But this is where one farmer might be better than another farmer, that we can't control. But we are hopeful from our side that when farmers are given those opportunities, they will also up their game. As much as from a Land Bank, we're starting also to up our game by doing all these things around financing, right, to make sure that we give the farmer the best chance to access those markets, but also they need to then service those markets, because that's the only way you can actually stay into the supply chain.
Yeah, definitely. I want to come to you, Ntate Takisi. I'm just going to ask my colleagues to take a mic from Mr. Lita so that we can get questions from the floor. For those that are online, of course, we're talking how Land Bank has repositioned themselves to deliver on its development finance model. Be part of the conversation, ask your questions online. If I hear what Lita is saying, it warms my heart to hear some of the forward-thinking innovations that are coming out of this new strategy, listening to some of the innovations that are coming forward. Dr. Takisi, collaboration clearly being a key factor in the success that we're seeing here with the blended finance. What practical examples have you seen where public-private partnerships are actually working well to support smallholder or other new era farmers?
Yeah, no, thank you very much. No, it's quite a number. You see, the province itself is very rich. If I'm looking only at the Free State, for argument's sake. Rich in which sense? In the sense that you do have institutions of higher learning. Your CUTs, your University of Free State, and so on. And what I've seen it happening well is where there is a partnership between the institution of higher learning, because it provides the research. They also bring in the research institutions for the purposes of also looking at the cultivars that can stand droughts and so on and so forth. That works very well. That assists. Because only when you begin to penetrate that space, you are able to also deal with the issues of climate change and so on and so forth. But also, if you look at, we are always talking training, knowledge, and so on and so forth. But it's not as generic as it is. You need to structure your training in such a way that it talks to the issues that a farmer has raised. And that is why I cannot impose training. I must first sit down with them and begin to say, what are your challenges? I've did my assessment also. I've also realized that we are lacking here, and then we structure a training as such. So it works very well. It also brings in the financing institutions, Land Bank being part of it. You have heard they were talking more of a technical aspects of making sure that there is production, but also completing the whole value chain, which is important because training must be structured like that. You start at that level, but you must also look at the bigger picture. Farmers, they don't want to be only the producers, but they don't know where their produce went to. So these are some of the relations that I've sort of realized. Also bringing in other departments. Remember, after marketing, you must use the roads to transport your produce to the co-ops or to the marketing place. So you need the infrastructure. And I've seen in the province, it works very well where we have pull-in roads. And farmers are beginning to say we have challenges with this particular road, and roads prioritize that. So it works very well. The same applies with the distiller. They are talking about the tuck shop, they are talking about quite a number of spaza shops and so on and so forth. But where are they going to get their produce? So sometimes the market is also locally based, but in most cases, we are thinking of an international market at a commercial level. So we need to close that space at locally, provincially, and nationally and internationally. So that works very well the way I've seen. And the government, also the department, bringing in the SA gap to now provide training, specific training to the farmers when they want to market their produce. Because some of them, they produce. But when it comes to the actual, where you have to look at the space and everything, they don't qualify. They are always having a challenge. So SA gap has to come in and said, now that you are processing some of your produce here, these are the things that you need to follow. So it's quite a number of them, the partnership that are working fairly well, more especially within the province itself. One of it is this one of the Land Bank. Government brings in the grants, they bring in their part. So that's a good partnership to assist at the end the farming community.
Most definitely. I think this is now an opportunity to hear from the farmers on what works and what does not work. I see a gentleman that has the mic. Quickly just introduce yourself briefly and then also your question very briefly. Your name?
Thank you very much. My name is Lundi Kama. I am a farmer in the Eastern Cape. My question is, I'm also a Land Bank client. My question is on the progress on the side of the Land Bank. For the past 3 years, we've been moving between the province, the national, the Land Bank, the local Land Bank offices, on a clause that was put by government, the national government, on the blended finance. Now I want to find out how far is Land Bank moved in ensuring that those farmers that had been excluded access to the blended finance, as it was made a blanket approach, because we view it as it was ill-informed by the national government to put such a clause as a blanket approach, because I'm sure a case needed to be handled on a merit basis, case by case, not just say all the distressed farmers are not entitled to get access to the blended finance. That has affected our distressed farmers. Even though amongst those distressed farmers, you would find their gearing is much better than 1,000 whites out there, because some would find that they've got 28% debt over their asset. But now how do you exclude such a person access to finance? Yeah. Because the collateral for the bank is there. Just in passing, in the Eastern Cape, unfortunately, we do not have a development finance institution ever since the agricultural banks died. So Land Bank was our only hope. We have had a lot of opportunities as farmers. For example, in the beef industry, we signed contract with China to supply them with live animals. We are the only province that has got a right in the port to export live animals. But unfortunately, without financing capacitation of farmers, that won't work.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's also I needed to touch on.
Lundi, who's a farmer in the Free State, seems to be talking about a clause that seems to exclude certain farmers. Let's hear from Land Bank to get that question answered.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, Londi. Yeah, I think you are right. In the blended finance, there is an exclusion that says the program cannot be used for certain farmers that are under distress. And you may have seen I said certain farmers, because it actually says when you give a grant to these farmers, it shouldn't be used to go and settle that previous exposure that they have. And I think, so firstly, I think as far as that is concerned, I must start by saying that we have been engaging with the department. We haven't found a full solution yet to deal with farmers under financial distress. However, what I can tell you is that we have been able to finance farmers that have got facilities, and when you look at the facilities with other banks, you can tell that they do have elements of distress. What we have been able to do was to look at, one, the intended usage of the blended finance being applied for. If it's going into the new farming practice, which of course is going to have a repayment ability, we've been able to come up with solutions. Where we've had challenges, it's where the existing distress, which is coming from other financiers, has not been resolved as yet. As an example, the farmer hasn't made repayment arrangements with some of the current financiers that that is on distress with, or there are currently either judgments or risks of repossessions and so on. So those have become very, very difficult. But I can tell you we've had clients that we finance that are under distress, that the blended financing is going to create a new asset, and that asset has got the repayment ability. We've been able to rely on the payments arrangements that they've put in place with some of their current financiers that they are on distress on. Again, the level of distress varies per farmers. And it's always good to look at it on a case-by-case basis, to look at what level of distress, what arrangements are in place, and we continue to engage with the departments. Some distresses have been caused by drought, and for those ones, we have been able to actually come up with packages to try and assist the farmer. So it's not to say that if you are in distress, you can't talk to us, but actually there has to be a plan as to, one, how do we address the current situation? The grant cannot be used to pay the outstanding facilities from other financiers. But we can actually take it up and see if there are specifics we need to assist him further with. Thanks.
Definitely. Lita, I'm getting questions from online. Thank you for those that are posing questions online. Other questions in the audience. Let's get a mic to the gentleman at the back, also here in front. The question online is from Ncebagazi. She says, I am a new and small farmer from Vanderbijlpark. I need help with irrigation system and plowing tools. I'm not sure how far the support of Land Bank extends. Is that something that Land Bank could possibly support a farmer like that with?
Yeah, in those instances, I mean, we currently finalizing an agreement with the Gauteng Agriculture Department, because some of the infrastructure could be done by province, and some of the infrastructure can be done by the Land Bank. So in that instance, we'll need to understand the situation. Obviously, we need to look at other things. Do they have markets? Do they have, capacity in terms of skills? Because when we look at a farmer, we want to look at you holistically. So it's not just about dealing with irrigation. It's also dealing with other elements. It could be compliance over and above just irrigation. Because when you start zooming into what the farmer wants, you might find there are other areas of weakness that can actually be strengthened by the support that we're providing. Definitely it's something that we will be able to look at. As I said, we'll look at the whole picture. The nice thing is that we are doing a relationship with the provincial government. And part of that reasoning is to make sure that farmers in the Gauteng, in this instance, because the farmer is in Gauteng, is not just a land bank, you know, who's going to provide a solution, that we work with, you know, a local authority in agriculture to make sure that we can be able to support that farmer. We just need to get the details and understand the full picture, and then we can see what we can do.
Fantastic. I've got another question coming in from online, but I want to give the gentleman at the back an opportunity. Your name and briefly your question.
Greetings to everyone and the speakers. My question is to Land Bank and the department. So I think in terms of funding, any financial institution or governmental institution looks at the success rate of a program. So you do not keep a cow that hasn't birthed you for the last 2 years still on the farm. It becomes a liability. So I think the same goes with programs. If the program is not having a good success rate, you end up discarding it. So my question is there any form of, you guys were talking about trainings, but I mean mentorships or a business consultant that you get prior to getting funding? Because I think in that manner, you get to have a personal one-on-one with the person who's applying for the fund, firstly. Secondly, you also get to see where they come from, where they currently are, and where they're going. So yes, my question is basic. Is there any mentorship, business consultation, or anything like that?
Fantastic. Lita?
Okay. Now I can take that. That's precisely why the division was opened, the partnership, is to provide pre-investment support. It includes getting someone to help you with your business plan, do an analysis of your farm, see the state of your farm, understand what are the needs. Some of the things, for example, if you need fencing, that's something a province needs to do, right? Because that's part of biosecurity requirement before land bank supports you. But other things like compliance, we could do. And both compliance for markets, but also for applying for funding within the land bank. That's definitely something we do. But over and above just pre-investment support with the mentorship, we also do technical support, which is a post-investment mentorship. During your phase of whether you are looking after your cows or your livestock or you are actually looking after your crop. So it's not just before, but we also work with you after. But again, it's to look at, as I said, the holistic picture. Because I don't want to just do mentorship only to find out you've got other elements that needs to be resolved.
Question in front here.
Okay, no, thank you. Honestly, I can tell that you guys have made quite a number of improvements on, or your focus is really development. I could tell on a number of strategies and plans that you have. But what I need to find out is, we have a challenge of guys that are in the plus farms, government-bought farms, where most of the farms were bought without proper infrastructure or dilapidated infrastructure. In that sense, how are you willing to assist? Because what's the use of someone putting up your own money or taking a loan on infrastructure that you are also not guaranteed that you are going to get the farm or the allocation of the farm to you because you got it on those conditions? The second question will be on insurance purpose. Am I forced to only take US land bank insurance? Or if I bring you another insurer with the similar product, cheaper than yourself, are you willing to look at the costs and say, okay, this one is costing me 20,000 and you are charging me 30,000? Are you willing to revisit the premium or whatever the cost of the insurance? Also on issues of acquisition of the land, how much time do we have to give you as a bank to process the entire application?
Yeah. I'm going to give Pascal an opportunity to maybe respond to the insurance question, and then we'll briefly get responses from Temba for the other question that you asked. Is there another question in the audience? Fantastic. Pascal?
No, thank you. So it's not compulsory to take insurance as collateral from land bank insurance. But I challenge you to show us a cheaper offer. We are state-owned and not tax-paying, which means that I doubt if there's another insurer who can compete on price.
Okay, thank you so much. Let's deal the other questions. I think your first question was on plus farms, whether we are able to assist when you are on plus farms. So most certainly, I think the plus farms was part of government proactive land acquisition strategy, and they have those farms that they have purchased and they are giving leases to farmers. If you have a lease and you need, of course, financing to produce, we are able to support. Obviously, we're gonna look at the remaining tenor of the lease. We hope that you will still have enough tenor that can be financed for what you want us to do. We have been able to purchase agricultural equipment for farmers that are leasing under the Plus Farm program, and of course, production loans. So most certainly we are able to assist on those, provided, of course, you still have a valid lease with the government. On the land acquisition, if you want to acquire land, most certainly we do also, in fact, many of, I mentioned earlier the successes of blended finance. We supported about 387 farmers. Out of those, about 128 were farm acquisition, predominantly land acquisition and so on. So we finance land acquisition. Specifically, you are asking, what is our response time? Again, we speak about time all the time. Speak about time all the time. And I always say that it all depends on your readiness to engage us. If you have all your paperwork and everything that we require is ready, we move fast. Our credit committee sits actually many times on a weekly basis. Even the most senior credit committee sits every Thursday. So we do move fast if you are ready. We have set ourselves targets. We said we need to ensure application is completed end-to-end within 90 days. How are we tracking today? We are somewhere around 55 days. However, there are those that are taking much longer, and it's because their documentations are not ready. I always say to farmers that you need to take it upon yourself to follow up with us. Once you submit, it's not the end of the process. Ensure you know the name of the banker and follow up. But the time actually has improved quite a lot. We move with speed now.
Lita, in 1 minute, will Land Bank fund a farmer that brings on board an application that has already an uptake agreement for specific for market purposes with all compliance in place? And then also on top of that, cannabis projects. Are you going to aid cannabis products programs and models that are currently blooming?
Okay. So yes, we will definitely look at it. So we are not saying at the Land Bank that the market has to come via us. So if you come with your own markets, perfect. But what we want to do, we want to see if we can enhance you with other markets. So you might come with retailer 1 only to find out there are other crops you can plant for retailer 2. And maybe we've got a partnership with retailer 2. So we want to make sure that you get a full spectrum of access in terms of the market access. Because what that then does, it creates more sustainability. Because as a farmer, you're actually now having multiple markets. So if you come with your own, perfect, right? Obviously, you talk to our relationship managers, and if they see there are opportunities to expand, then we are able to do that. Obviously, cannabis is a government policy that one has to look at. It's part of the agriculture and agro-processing master plan. It's something that we need to look at. There are a lot of other hurdles in that space in terms of compliance issues, because there's licensing that is involved. Right, there was a paper that we did at the Land Bank to look at piloting it, because it's a new area of farming. Whereas with grains, we already got norms. We understand how it works, and we do want to look at those projects, obviously, at a pilot level, so that we can be able to test some of the, if there are many assumptions that are made, they need to be tested. Whereas with grains, we know, because Land Bank has been doing it for for more than 100 years. So we will be able to look at that, but it's a case by case again, looking at the markets. For an example, is it local markets, international markets? Are you using it for medicinal or not? So those are the type of things that we'll be able to look. Again, we have to work with the DTIC because they do have programs to promote that sector. And also we have to look at regulation because it's a highly regulated space.
I just want to add quickly, do we have any successful cannabis farmer? The answer is no. We don't have one successful one. And the reality is that a lot of the cannabis application that we have seen, a lot of them have got very big, ambitious plans, which when you look at it, actually, they're taking very big amounts. The bankability is not there. Cannabis is a new focus. We really are looking for cannabis farmers that comes with reasonable business plans that they are prepared to start reasonably and not with 100 million type of investment for something that everybody is still trying. So it is a focus area. We haven't had reasonable business plan, and we're asking for this farmer, if they have one, to engage us, and we're hoping that it won't be one of those that require hundreds of millions.
Yeah, fantastic. I think that's a very important question. Pascal, I want to give you 1 minute as well as Themba 1 minute as we close up this discussion. What steps do you think can be taken to expand access to insurance to both women and young farmers, especially black farmers who seem to be often left out?
So what we see in other countries is where government steps in to provide premium subsidies. This is quite common practice in a number of countries, including in the continent. And as Land Bank, we've been engaging with authority, both the Ministry of Finance and Agriculture, to consider opportunities to provide insurance support, particularly for non-commercial farmers. Those discussions are advanced, but it's a question of budget, and we'll continue to speak to the state at all levels. And I'm glad that my colleague here can perhaps take the message back to the ministry, where he's got influence. That really will support the small-scale farmer as we see it in other continents, in other countries in the continent. Thanks.
Themba, we've heard lots of gains that have come out of the new strategy of Land Bank. How will the bank's future strategy build on these gains to create a more inclusive and resilient agricultural sector?
Yeah, so most certainly I think though we're seeing successes with the implementation of blended finance and transforming the sector, I think we're still early stages. There's still quite a lot of work that we need to do, and we believe that we really have positioned the bank well to be able to continue with the good work that we have started. We have capacitated our teams across all the provinces, and we continue to partner with critical implementing partners that will help us to ensure that the pre-funding support that is required and the post-funding support will be provided. And many of the work that Lita and all our other banking colleagues that are doing, we believe that all of that will really help farmers. We encourage all of them to continue to approach our provincial offices, submit their applications. And as I've always said, once you've submitted your application, it's not the end of it. Continue to follow up with us so that you can get feedback and we can work with you to improve on your application. So most certainly, I think we continue with that, and we believe that there's quite a lot more that we can do together.
Fantastic. That brings us to the end of this session. Thank you so much to our panelists for engaging with us on this conversation. Our audience as well, thank you so much for the questions that also came online. Once again, thank you so much for your time. Join us tomorrow again, where we further unpack Land Bank insurance companies tailored products and services that they offer for farmers in this ever-evolving agricultural landscape. That happens tomorrow again at 1 o'clock. For now, get some snacks at the back. Speak to the Land Bank representatives that are still in the room if you have any questions, or visit them at their stand on the NAMPO grounds.